Steel Curtain Network.
Touchdown! Touchdown para Calvin Austin! El Monte Washington es arma. ¿Quién más? ¿Quién más? DJ Watt!
What is going on, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Preview. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Dave Schofield and Bryan Davis. No game. We know this. Been that way the last 2 weeks, but still, Dave Schofield, welcome.
How's it going? Hopefully my connection's okay because I had to hit the intro music 3 times to get it to work. So hopefully you can hear me and everything's good.
Sounds good. Bryan Davis, what's up?
Gentlemen, it is so good to be here. I am so glad. I love this week. I'm a big fan of the AFC Championship game. Of course, it's better when the Pittsburgh Steelers are in it. And I did some stat geekishness of my own this week, and I figured something out. Since the Steelers' first playoff appearance, do you know how many percentage, the percentage of time since their first one in 1972 that the Steelers have been in the AFC Championship game?
Okay, so you're saying the first one like in the Super Bowl era, not the 47 playoff game.
Yeah, I'm not counting I'm counting since their first one in the Super Bowl era.
Okay, so to how many AFC Championship games? What percentage? Okay, I'm trying to think. 1, 2.
I know it's not trivia. I'm sorry for.
Oh no. I'm sorry. I'm trying to do the math in my head. Finish season. I'm going to say you're not counting these coming up, right? They haven't happened yet.
Actually, I am counting these.
Okay, just making sure. Because what is that? That would be 59.
Do you have a guess? Well,
it's one.
A beautiful mind doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess $1.
Oh my
show
goodness.
on the road. Come on, let's
go. Come on, I'm trying to do math. Jeff, how many AFC Championship games did they lose?
I don't know, but I just want to get the show started.
I'm sorry, I didn't think
15%. 15%.
They've been in 30% of the AFC Championship games. Yeah, they're 8 for 8, 8 of 8 and 8, 16 AFC Championships. So they're pretty impressive. Sorry, Jeff.
Wow.
I didn't think it was going to go that far. I was just...
You can't ask me a math question. I was just trying to remember. I didn't realize they lost that many. Yeah.
Okay. So let's get the show on the road. I want to talk about a little bit of news here first before we dive into it. And it has nothing to do with TJ Watt. We'll talk about him in the podcast today for the defense. But I want to talk about the fact that the dates for the 2026 NFL draft have officially been announced. The Pittsburgh area is going to hold that. I don't know where they're exactly. I'm sure it'll be on the North Shore somewhere. But April 23rd, April 20 to April 25th, 2026. I said this on my Let's Ride podcast for tomorrow. Unless I'm dead, I'll be there. I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't want to actually be. I actually don't want to be in the event. I don't want to be in the draft. I want to be I want to have a watch party, like a live watch party with anyone else that wants to come. And I don't care if it's me sitting at a table with a computer in front of me talking with people. I don't care. I'm excited for this event. Dave, any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I don't want to actually get anywhere close to it, honestly. Just with I'm weird when it comes to unfamiliar situations. That's I remember going to my first Steelers game and not knowing where to go or where to park or what to do, and I just felt very, very awkward. Now that I've done it, it's second nature to me. And I think about the draft, and I'm like, oh my goodness, how do you get there? Where do you park? What do you do? Where do you walk? Where are you going to stand? What are you going to do? I don't know. But I don't know. By the time it gets around, maybe these guys will talk me into going.
Well, like I said, I don't want to go to the draft. I don't want to see Roger Goodell at all. I want to be around other Steeler fans, people that probably watch us on a weekly basis, listen to us. I want to spend that moment with them. So we could be outside of Pittsburgh for all I know, place in Cranberry or down in Washington, PA. Who the hell knows? Bryan, what do you think?
I love that idea, Jeff. However, let me take you back in time to February 8th, I believe it was, either February 7th or February 8th of 2006. I went to the parade by myself because I couldn't get anybody to go with me. So I am going to be in that mix, in that mosh pit in that throng. I'm somehow going to be in it because it is it's my Woodstock. So I think I gotta go. I gotta get a little closer. I'll figure out how to be there with you guys too. Maybe I'm not there Thursday night. Maybe if we do it Saturday afternoon, maybe if we do it Friday night. I don't know, but I've got to somehow be in that mess.
Yeah.
You guys are short. You don't have to worry about people yelling at you because your big tall head's in the way. So
yeah, I'm gonna be the one yelling at you big tall headed people.
Hey, for me, I just want to go and I just want to be there with Steeler fans. Like that's it.
I'd love to meet up with SCN.
Because really, that would be an opportunity. Like you guys go to games and stuff, and sometimes you run into people that are listeners or viewers of the podcast. This would be an opportunity to actually sit with them. Like you're not at a game, so you don't have to go to your seat. Like let's sit and talk. And some of the people that live in, I know Tyler W is an example. I know Afton and her mom are going to be there. They've already said they're going to be at the event. So like it'd be cool to meet these people. Let's watch the draft together. Let's talk about it. Let's be on a podcast. I think that would be a lot of fun. We have a lot of time for that. I just want to get that.
I'm waiting for it to pop up in the live chat. It hasn't happened yet, but it's coming. You know where they want the watch party.
At the Beehive.
They're saying it.
That would be disturbing in a lot of ways.
Or is that where the after party is?
Well, who wants to go all the way to Latrobe when it's in Pittsburgh? I don't know, but whatever. So, all right, let's shift gears here and let's talk about the title of the podcast, the Steelers defense. We did this last week with the offense, and in case you missed it, you can go back and listen. Nothing is dated. It's not like a player has been released that we talked about at length. Like everyone's still on the team, but we are not focusing on those players that might be gone in 2025. We're talking about the players that we know will be back on the roster. Could things change? Absolutely. But still, we want to take a time to look at individual players. Did they take a step forward? Did they take a step backwards? Or did they remain stagnant? Like those are the things that we're going to be looking at on a case-by-case basis. We'll do a couple position groups. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll finish it up. We'll do a trivia, and we'll be out of here. So, gentlemen, are you ready?
Yes.
Sure thing.
All right. Let's start with, I think this is a tough one. We're going to start on the defensive front. Let's start with Keanu Benton. Keanu Benton, who didn't even register a sack until I believe it was week 18 against the Bengals. But still, I'm not going to say that he had a step backwards necessarily. Dave, what do you think?
I thought he was going to make a bigger step forward. And he honestly, he didn't have quite as good a year as he did the year before. If you really want to look at it, especially he struggled more in run defense in this season than he did last year. So I thought he had a very nice rookie season. I was ready for him to make a good jump. I don't think that he did. So I'm going to say that he held steady.
Okay. What about you, Bryan?
Yeah, this one's very tough for me. This is the one I was worried about the most, actually. I'm going to go ahead and say that, man, this hurts me to say, but I'm going to say he took a little bit of a step back in my eyes because I expected so much of a jump. And I still think he is a guy that they can build around that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about him. I just expected so much more. And there was not as much splash. Now, did he probably do some of the dirty work that I'm not noticing? Yeah, probably. So I don't want to bury this guy. I think he is a big part of this team's future. But for what my expectations were, I've got to say backwards.
I know that he had some good play, and a lot of his good play gets unnoticed because it's the defensive line, but he didn't have the splash. And when I say splash for defensive linemen, like look at what Cam Hayward did in terms of pass defenses. If he could learn that trick of the trade, like that's a splash play for a defensive lineman, get your hands on the football. Only registered one sack. I'm not going to say a step backwards, but I'm also not going to say a step forward. I'm going to agree with what you guys said, and we're just going to say he kind of remained the same. So we'll see how he does in next year. But let's go to the old oak tree, Cam Hayward. I mean, this seems like a slam dunk to me, but I'll let you guys go first. Dave, what do you think?
Well, if you're comparing it specifically to last year, it's a huge leap. If you're looking at it at his career, I would still say it was a step forward. I think he had one of the best years of his career at 30, 30, whatever he is. That I was very impressed with him this season. I mean, he had some other pretty good years in there too. That's kind of hard to go against that too much, but he deserves everything that he's getting with the first team All-Pro, everything of that nature. And honestly, I think he had a better case than Trent Jordan for Defensive Player of the Year, but it's really hard to get those for an interior lineman. But years that Aaron Donald won it, Cam Hayward had very similar numbers to what Aaron Donald would have.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at it strictly from numbers. So to me, it's a huge leap based on last year because he was playing through injury last year. It wasn't that he was playing bad. He was playing hurt. But the fact that he's keeping it up at this level is pretty fantastic.
Bryan, what do you think?
The best way to, I agree with everything Dave said, but the best way to go ahead and talk about Cam Hayward's year is how everybody was last year when he was about to sign a new contract. And I know it's revisionist history because I'm sure a lot of you right now are 99%. Yeah, we wanted him back. No, there was a lot of, I think that was maybe, if it was for Cam, it might have been 50-48%, because there was a lot of people against that contract saying he's too old, let him go. And I was not one of them. I'm glad Cam was back, and guys don't do that. Somebody said to me about Cam Hayward the other day, what's in the water there? What's Cam drinking? And it's like, yeah, he has found a fountain of youth. I think that was Jeff's quote, the fountain of youth with Cam Hayward. And I'm like, yeah, he has. And it's amazing what he's doing. And that wasn't even a Steeler fan saying it. Cam Hayward's being noticed. Again, I'm glad he's getting the accolades that he did. I would have loved to have seen him in Defensive Player of the Year conversation, but it's not. But what he did after getting that contract is absolutely amazing. And remember, yeah, he was hurt last year, but he proved that a guy of advanced age could play that position. That's Hall of Fame material to me.
Cam, I mean, he showed that he's healthy, and that was what he wasn't in 2023. And I think he also proved that, some of these guys, look at Calais Campbell as a prime example. They can play high-level defensive line for a lot longer. I think the question is how often do you have to spell them? Getting better depth to the Cam doesn't have to play 75% of the defensive snaps or something like that. So he's old man strong now, and he's still doing the thing. He took a step forward, especially from 2023. Let's go with a player that I'm actually predicting is not going to be on the team next year, but he could be, and that's Larry Ogunjobi, who's due to make $7 million, and that could be some cap savings the Steelers might want to get to go and look at elsewhere. But still, Larry O, what do you think? Step forward or backwards, Dave, or stagnant?
I'm going backwards. Last year, I remember saying, wow, he would give you like one amazing play a game, and you'd realize, oh, this is what he's capable of. He just doesn't do it enough. I didn't even feel like we were getting that this year. I mean, looking at some of his numbers, like last year, he had 35 pressures. This is PFF stats, just because they break them down individually. So just so you know, there's no half sacks or anything that they do it in there. He had 35 pressures. The year before, his first year in Pittsburgh, he had 30. This past year, he had 16.
Wow.
So it just kind of shows you that where he's going. And he wasn't, you're like, well, if it's not about pressure, how's he doing against the run? He was not doing that great against the run either. I think this is one of those, hey, part of the reason the Steelers have the most expensive defense is that they're playing guys that aren't producing. And to me, this is one of those examples. And that's why I agree with Jeff that I think in the best interest of the Steelers getting better, they would be better off to say, thank you for your time. We're going to move on.
Yeah. Bryan?
This is the best way I can say this is it's a bad spark plug. And I don't know if you could go to Lowe's and get it replaced for a guy like Larry Ogunjobi. I think that he's got the heart. I think the motor wants to go. I don't think that all cylinders are firing inside his body to make him do it right now. I mean, it's not like he's ancient, but he's right around 30. And I think I definitely have to say that this was a step back. It hurts me to say because I have a Larry Ogunjobi jersey, and I'm very tight on who I get a jersey of.
Extremely.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, who don't
So-
you have a jersey? How's your Ben Skoranek jersey doing?
Don't have it yet. It's coming.
Oh my gosh. I think I agree. A step back for sure. Let's go now let's kind of complete the front seven. Let's go to edge rushers. This is a tough one as well, because really when you look at statistically, he had some good numbers, just not what we're expecting. TJ Watt. Dave, what do you think?
Well, here's the thing with TJ Watt this year. You got your best play from him early in the season. You didn't necessarily get great play from him down the stretch. I really feel like, especially up through the bye week, TJ Watt was doing extremely well. But I also do believe he was playing injured. So he definitely didn't take a step forward from what he'd done otherwise, in my opinion. But I don't know that he took a huge step back. I mean, I know he dropped from what? How many sacks he have last year? Like 19 and a half, 20. I can't remember the exact number. Down to 11 and a half this year. You saw some of that, but part of that was, I feel like that they were just saying, all right, TJ, go out there and do your thing. We're not going to do anything to help you get to the quarterback by scheming anything else around you. But his play, I can't say. I'm not saying take a step back. I'm just saying, if you look at the whole season, because he was playing at a much higher level early in the year, and honestly, I think that's why he's getting consideration for Defensive Player of the Year. That has more to do with his first half of the season than the second half of the season. But so I'm just going to say hold true.
Okay. What about you, Brian?
I'm going to say hold true as well. But here's the thing. In a couple weeks, when they go ahead and announce Defensive Player of the Year, how upset are we going to be when he doesn't win it? I don't think we're going to be upset at all. I don't think we're going to be upset. In fact, I think he has more of a chance to win it because I think there's guys more deserving. It's just the weird part of the award. But I don't think he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year because I don't think he has the stats and the play that the other guys do. I would not rank him as high on that list. I'm not saying I'm ranking him last, but I'm probably giving Trey Hendrickson a nod, definitely, over TJ Watt this year. And that's just me being objective. I can't say he took a step back, but when Dave Schofield says the scheming thing, oh my gosh, JJ Watt said it last week. And JJ Watt is saying he's finally realizing that they've got to move him around, that he's got to move around a little bit. Yeah, they do, because the chip book, the chipping and all of that stuff was real. And by crossing teams up and changing things. Remember when I talked about last week with Veron Haynes in the 2006 season, the game against the Colts, and how they said they were going to switch things up at the last minute and shift guys on the line? They're not doing any stuff like that with TJ Watt. If they did that, that would cause a whole lot of chaos. I think those pressures and those sacks would go way up.
Let's call a spade. This was not a typical TJ Watt year. And he wasn't as impactful for whatever reason, health, scheme, whatever. I think it's a step backwards. I hate to say that, but when you're TJ Watt, you're Defensive Player of the Year, you're an All-Pro, you're a Pro Bowl, perennial Pro Bowler, you expect to see more production. And I thought the fact that, there were games where he was held off the stat sheet, like that's a little cringeworthy for me. So I'm going to say he took a step back. And I would have said the same thing about Cam Hayward after 2023, and he was hurt the most of the season. So sometimes it sucks, but I think let's call a spade a spade. Let's keep with the outside linebackers.
Can I just say one more thing? If you're looking especially at the second half of the season, that's what I would say with that too.
Right.
But you really have to look at it, because as we go into the offseason and we go back and actually remind ourselves of some of these things earlier in the season, we might not feel exactly the same way.
That's true. All right, I want to package the next two guys together because they both miss a lot of time. They're both going to be back next year, barring something unforeseen happening. and that's Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig. So we're wrapping up the pass rushers here. You can just talk about them individually. We're going to package them together. Dave, what do you think?
All right. Well, I first of all, Highsmith, I'm going to say he pretty much held true, and that's even with missing time. So, I mean, I'm trying to think, how many games did he play this season? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 if you count the playoff game. And he still put up, he didn't have as many quarterback hurries as he had last year, but he was almost at about the same sack numbers, which weren't what they were the year before when TJ Watt was out and Highsmith was getting more sacks. But I just think that when he was available, that he held true a lot to what he was the year before. When it comes to Herbig, he was all over the place. I just did the breakdown for the defensive PFF scores just to report what they were for the season and grade them. And he'd have these amazing games where he had these phenomenal scores and everything, and then he'd just be at the very bottom in other ones. It was all over the place, and I think that had more to do with finding his exact role when they were going to use, how they were going to use him. I think he did better when he was getting more snaps. So for him, I'm going to say he's yet another one that it's not like he made a big sophomore jump, but I'm going to say he held true as well, mainly because he had times where he was much better this year than last year, but he also had some times where he just kind of disappeared and got caught in the wash as well.
All right, Bryan.
I'm going to look at this a little bit differently. I am going to go ahead and look at Herbig first and say that he took a step forward, because just like both of these guys, when they were out, it was glaring when these guys were out. And some of them were out around the same time as well. So what is that true, Dave, that they were out at the same time?
Herbig and
Highsmith?
I'll check it. Keep talking. I'll let you know for sure.
But yeah, because I think Highsmith came back for the Jets game and Herbig went out in the Dallas game. But so what I'm going to say here is I think Herbig, when he was on the field, he was doing so many more things. I know he went away a little bit. His body type's different, but based on the year before, this was a lot better Nick Herbig, where he was a good rookie. And now if somebody's calling for a trade, you want something very significant to get rid of a guy like Nick Herbig right now. I think they believe he is a very big part of this defense going in the future. Highsmith, I'm so close to saying he took a step forward for what he was doing when he was in there, but I'll say that I think this was a better year for him as an individual. So I'm actually going to go ahead and take that jump and say that this was a better version of Alex Highsmith than what we saw in 2023 when he played. When he played, it was a better version of what we saw. So I'm doing it that way.
Okay.
And to answer your question, Bryan, Highsmith was out for the Dallas game when Herbig got hurt, and they both missed week 6 after that. But then Highsmith was back for week 7. And then when he went out again, he missed 11, 12, 13, and Herbig was here for those. Okay. So it was about a game and a half that it overlapped.
I think both of these guys to me, they just stayed the same. Like Nick Herbig had some splash as a rookie. Alex Highsmith, he started to win some one-on-one battles, but didn't stay healthy. So I've got both of these players staying stagnant. So, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. If you're watching live on any platform, we're not going anywhere. If you're listening on the audio side, we'll be right back after word from our sponsors. We're going to talk about inside linebackers, and we're going to touch on the secondary before we get to trivia. We'll be right back. All right, Steeler fans, welcome back. Thank you all for being patient. And it's time that we dive into the inside linebackers. There's really a trio here. We can lump them together. And Elandon Roberts is not slated to be back, so we won't talk about him. That's kind of the rule. So let's talk Patrick Queen first. Then we'll go to Peyton Wilson. Dave, what do you think about Patrick Queen? I know it's a new guy, but still.
Well, I mean, if you're going to judge him on the previous season, you have to say he took a step back because he was a Pro Bowl player. in Baltimore and then wasn't here. I think he's getting a little bit of a, at times you could say he has a bad rap here. I think to really judge him next year is really going to be the one that's going to say, all right, what are you doing from this point on? He started to show some real flashes. I know we think of the wild card game when he was sick, hearing that news afterwards about how sick he really was. I know people were saying, well, if he was so sick, why was he on the field? Do you want to know why? Because a 60% Patrick Queen was better than 100% Tyler Medikevich. I don't know if Medikevich would have been the next guy or not. I'm just giving you just an idea. But to me, you got to say he took a step back. But I didn't expect him to like make a leap with the Steelers based on what he was doing before. I was hoping to get the same out of him, and I wouldn't say that was the case at all.
Okay, Bryan.
Look, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm not going to judge Patrick Queen against Patrick Queen. I'm going to judge Patrick Queen against Michael Walker and guys like that were playing at the very end of the season in the middle for the Pittsburgh Steelers, of that front seven. I think it was a step forward for the Pittsburgh Steelers to have Patrick Queen on the field, instead of the guys that were there before. So man, he gets a horrible rap here. And I knew that the live chat would blow up on Patrick Queen. He's kind of has he's became one of the scapegoats of the defense from the very beginning. I mean, just game number one, everybody expected Roquan Smith to walk through the door, and that's not what they were getting. They expected another Shazier. They got a really good player, and I feel like he did a lot more with that green dot than a lot of people think, but that's just my opinion as far as that goes. But at the very end, I mean, my gosh, the Steelers brought back he was wearing number 16 last year, the guy from Jacksonville, Miles Jack. They at the very end. So gosh, that was a step forward for the Steelers defense. Might not be the best version of Patrick Queen that you want, but if we're judging 23 against 24, heck yeah.
Yeah. When you look at it that way, Bryan, when you're looking at from the Steelers perspective, which was probably the better way to look at it. I would agree. They got better play from inside linebacker thanks to Patrick Queen. When you look at it that way, to me, if you look at the player where he was somewhere else versus here, then that's when you would look different.
I like what Bryan said there. I like how he talking about the Miles Jack, Michael Walkers of 2023. I will say though, it's not encouraging when the communication issues were so glaring on the defense, and he is the one that is in charge of getting everyone together.
Well,
and maybe it's the secondary not understanding what he's saying. I don't know. I don't know the specifics of it, but that is his job, Dave.
Well, just to explain that a little bit more, he gets the green dot. People, what they understand is the green dot. He gets the communication from the sidelines.
Yeah.
And the reason it makes sense for it to be the linebacker is because you're looking at three levels of defense. So having someone in the middle level that can communicate forward and backwards to know what the play is, that's the key. When it comes to communication in the secondary, that's communicating based on the formation and where they're moving around. That is not as much, from my understanding, on Patrick Queen as it is all the players knowing what they're doing and communicating in the secondary. Bryan, remember this. I would like you to get Coach KT Smith's opinion on that to know specifically a little bit more about that, if he could help us out.
I'm writing it down on a paper plate as we speak.
There you go. Because that brings up a really good point, Jeff.
Okay. So I would say that I think it's still a step forward for sure, but let's talk just about the rookie season of Peyton Wilson and what we saw out of him before we go into the secondary. Dave, I'll let you go first.
Yeah. I mean, with me trying to compare it to what the player did before, you can't really do that, but looking at it in the way Bryan approached it, I think Peyton Wilson gave the Steelers depth and options to get the type of player that they wanted on the field. And even as a rookie, he did a really nice job. The one rookie who was drafted where he was drafted because they were worried about injury is why he might have fallen, is the only drafted player by the Steelers that did not miss time due to injury. So very good that Peyton Wilson was available all season. But I think between Patrick Queen and the potential development, now it really depends on where he goes from here, that Bryan is exactly right, that it was better than what the Steelers finished the season with last year after they dealt with all those injuries.
All right, Bryan, Peyton Wilson.
I think he is wearing a green dot someday. I think he's going to the Pro Bowl someday. I don't know if he's going to be an all-pro, but he definitely has the instincts for it. He is a sideline-to-sideline guy. If I'm going to go ahead and elevate Patrick Queen, I'm going to say he was definitely a step forward as far as things go for the Steelers linebacker situation with this gentleman as well. I'm so excited. When they drafted him, I was doing a lot of homework on him and hearing some things on some other podcasts from other teams about how this guy could be a steal of the draft. And you know how they put out redrafts every couple years, like 3 years later, they do a redraft. I wouldn't be surprised to see a redraft and this guy going towards the end of the first round.
Maybe it's possible.
Yeah.
Well,
remember, Bryan and we were both upset when they drafted Roman Wilson with that first pick because we were both wanting Peyton Wilson.
We're like, Ron Wilson.
And then they got him anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Peyton Wilson, like you said, the durability question was always the big talking point. The knee history, the knee injuries, all that stuff. He stayed healthy. I think that was a huge win for him. So let's go to the secondary now. Let's start with the biggest name, the biggest question mark. Everyone's got an opinion. Minkah Fitzpatrick. Dave, I'll let you go first.
Minkah Fitzpatrick. That one's tough because the question is, did he have that great of a year last year either? You know what I mean? If you're looking at it over the course of his career, I would say it was a step back for sure. But I think, honestly, I kind of hate to say it. It appears that he took another step back again this year, but I don't know that it's all his fault. I mean, he didn't miss the time due to injury like he did last year, but I just don't know if he's being utilized in the best way. He's kind of the guy. Someone said it in the live chat. They're like, it was almost like, Minkah was covering for Beanie Bishop early in the season, and it was okay. Kind of seemed like when they started to play Cam Sutton, I know we haven't got to these guys yet, that it kind of seemed to get even worse. So, but if you're going strictly by what we've seen from Minkah before, I'm pretty surprised he was selected to the Pro Bowl.
It's a popularity contest.
Yeah.
So, Bryan, what's your take on Minkah?
Yeah, I thought it was a step back from 2023. I really did. And I agree with Dave. I don't like the scheming of that entire defense. And if we're going to say the same thing about when we're standing pat with TJ Watt, I think it's hard to definitely say that he took a step back, but I'm going to do it because it just didn't seem. Can I actually say this? I felt like there were times when, and I can't believe I'm actually going to say this. There were times towards the end where I think he was so frustrated that he looked disinterested.
Yep.
And I'm sure he wasn't, but the eye test, I mean, we have the eye test with everybody. We have the eye test with Patrick Queen. We have the eye test with Minkah, and everybody we have the eye test with. I know there's more than meets the eye test, but I just think it was not great Minkah. It wasn't vintage Minkah, and it wasn't even 2023 Minkah. I don't think he's a cut candidate. But I think there's something salvageable there, but I was thinking popularity when I saw the Pro Bowl vote too.
This is a tough one because, I mean, yeah, he played in more games in 2024 compared to 2023, but he still didn't have the impact plays at all. I mean, he had one interception, so he got off the schneid in Baltimore, and that was it. And that was it. I don't even think he had that many pass defenses.
Yeah, I don't think that so if you're talking pass, PFF has a pass breakup. He had 3 this year, but he only had 2 last year.
What about tackle totals?
He had a ton of tackles, I'm pretty sure. He had he had over 100.
Okay.
Between tackles and assists this year. But so do you really want your free safety making that many tackles?
No, you don't. And the thing is, people will say too, oh, well, that's definitely a step backwards. Well, he didn't provide splash. He didn't do it in 2023 or 2024. And he stayed healthy and did have a lot of tackles. I would say, if anything, he stayed the same. You know, there was the whole, didn't seem like his heart was into it at the end of the season. But who am I to question that? I'm only watching television. So,
yeah. But
I'm going to say he stayed the same.
When we're saying he stayed the same from a disappointing season last year where he missed a lot of time. So that's telling when you say that. So now, do I place all the blame of this on Minkah? It might be, but it could also be in his utilization. So regardless, it's still not good.
Right. No, you're right. All right, let's go to a bright spot. Let's go to Deshaun Elliott.
Yeah.
So if you want to do the Brian Davis policy, which is let's compare him to who was there last year, that was like the Keanu Neal role. And Keanu Neal got hurt and went on IR. That was right after his interception, I remember. Dave,
he got hurt on his interception.
Yep. What do you think about?
If he'd have just downed it in the end zone, he wouldn't have got hurt.
That's true.
Yeah.
What do you think about Deshaun Elliott?
Oh, that was like you said, not comparing him to himself, comparing to what the Steelers had. That was a big step forward. I think Deshaun Elliott was the best addition from a free agent acquisition that the Steelers had last year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Brian?
Man, I would have loved to have seen him get a Pro Bowl nod,
Brian,
with everything that he did.
Nope, you're good. I think Jeff is lagging.
Oh, okay. I would love to see him get a Pro Bowl nod with everything that he did. I really thought that, I really thought that he was such a great upgrade for this team. So I've got to say way up. In fact, probably one of the biggest jumps on this defense or the entire team. I would really say that play was considerable. He's probably, if we're ranking, he's probably one of the number one jumps for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I mean, in my opinion, I would have rather seen him make the Pro Bowl than Minkah Fitzpatrick. I know they play different positions and stuff, but in terms of play, splash plays, his open field tackling, I mean, he was phenomenal. And so I don't think anyone can really complain about Deshaun Elliott, but I want to give him some props. All right, let's go to the outside now. Let's go to Joey Porter Jr., another sophomore. It's going to be tough to diagnose. Dave, we'll let you go first.
Now, I'm with Porter, I'm going stayed the same. And I actually said going into the season that if Joey Porter Jr. gave you the same in his second season as he did at the end of his rookie season, then that would be a good season for him. But the reason I think that he stays the same is that they asked him to do more. And therefore, now maybe he didn't, there was times he got the penalties. It's still one of those things I like to say, Pittsburgh Steelers to say, this team isn't physical enough. And then when Joey Porter Jr. goes out there and plays Mel Blount style of a cornerback and gets 6 penalties called on him, they complain about all the penalties. So, you can't have it both. He was playing super physical that game and grabby and everything else. So to me, I would put him the same, and a lot, like, he might not have had the better, as good as numbers or things of that kind of things that he did the season before, but he was asked to do a lot more, which allowed the Steelers to do other things within the defense.
All right, Brian, thoughts on JPJ?
Yeah, this one isn't tough for me. I I really think that he did elevate, and there were so many times you were hearing Pittsburgh has a lockdown corner. Yeah, he had. So, I mean, I was at the game in Washington where there were some mistakes. Of course, we watched on December 1st. They won that game, but the Higgins debacle. But I think after that, Joey Porter's play, we weren't complaining much about Joey Porter's play. Of course, there's penalties here and there in that last quarter of the season, but I don't think it was horrendous. I really think with all the problems that you had, and now I know he missed a game in there too, but I know with all the problems that you had in the defensive backfield in different spots, I thought that Joey Porter elevated his game from 23. I thought it was a better version. In fact, I was more impressed with Joey Porter this year than I was in his rookie year, because there were things that I was excited about him, but there were things that thought he was more pedestrian than a lot of other people, and I thought this was a better year for him, despite the penalties.
Oh, the old Six Flags, Joey Porter Jr. Not the amusement park. I will say, I think he stayed the same. I don't think that's a knock on him. I am concerned, though, since Brian Davis put the Artie Burns curse on him in terms of his overall production moving forward. So if he ends up going down the tank, we're going to blame Brian. No,
he's already, the Artie Burns curse was, he was great one year, and then he was terrible. So, he beat the curse. knock a lot.
Yeah, there you go. All right, the last player we're going to talk about on the defensive side of the ball is Corey Trice. Now, this is interesting because Corey Trice missed all of his rookie season, and he has spent some time on IR. Durability was a major issue with him coming into the NFL. That's why he was a 7th-round draft pick. But, Dave, what do you think about Corey Trice?
Oh, what did I think of Corey Trice? When he actually was able to get on the field, I thought he did a nice job.
Yeah.
So to me, like someone said about Joey Porter Jr. in the live chat, I'm sorry, I want to give credit to who said it. That his needle's going up. His arrow's going up. That's how I feel about Corey Trice. I just think it was ridiculous. Yeah, there we go. Demetrios said it. About JPJ, about the arrow pointed up. I think the same thing is true with Corey Trice. Now the question is he your answer on the outside, opposite of Joey Porter Jr.? You can't, just like I said last year, you can't bank on Corey Trice being the guy because you didn't see him play last year. I don't think you've seen enough of him even this year to say he'd be the guy. You've got to have somebody else that can be the guy. But if Corey Trice comes in and plays well, then there you go. He was the best player they had in the secondary against the Chiefs once he got out there. But once again, he wasn't even active for the playoff game. So, and yet the week before, they were willing to put him one-on-one with no help against the best wide receiver in the NFL. Now, he gave up a touchdown when that happened. Yeah. And he was looking for, because he thought he had help to the inside, and that wasn't even there. So they were asking him to do some pretty big things, and he didn't. Let's just say he didn't urinate down his leg, is what Coach Tomlin would say whenever that happened. That he was willing to step up and go out there one-on-one against the best receiver, against the Triple Crown winner. So I really like what Corey Trice could bring, but now we've got to see that the Steelers will actually get him out there, because I tell you, seeing him on the inactive list for the playoff game after starting the week before just had me scratching my head.
All right, Brian, Corey Trice.
I thought it was a horrible decision to keep him off of that roster, that playoff game. Corey Trice, I'm going to be very quick on Corey Trice. Not enough data. However, arrow pointed up, and I'm excited of what he brings. I'm not throwing him out, and I'm excited on the possibility of Trice and Porter on each side.
Yeah, the tough part about Corey Trice, and my hope in 2025 is that if you think back to last season, he tears his ACL up in the first padded practice, and he loses his whole rookie season. But people don't realize he doesn't just lose his whole rookie season; he loses an off season of really trying to get himself in shape. So that's when all of a sudden a soft tissue injury, what was it, a hamstring that put him on IR, I think?
Yes.
It lands him on IR, and then it's tough for him to get back onto the roster because they've tried to move these pieces around. he ended the season relatively healthy, I'm assuming, outside of the major injury that he dealt with as a rookie. I think this offseason will be very telling. Does he come into camp in great shape? Does he come in and look like the part? Here's the thing. Corey Trice is not going to stop me from potentially drafting or picking up a cornerback in free agency. But if he turns out to be really good, you can never have too many corners. That's something we have learned time and time again with the Steelers. So I'm going to say he took a step forward. I hope that he has a big 2025 ahead of him, and we shall see. So, all right, that does it for the defensive side of things in terms of going forward, backwards, or staying stagnant. Bryan, it's the AFC Championship. Do you have some thoughts on that?
Yes, I absolutely do. And I don't know if you had a chance to listen to our special show, the Here We Go, the Steelers playoff extravaganza show. And
put it on our YouTube. I put it on our YouTube channel today.
Great. I'm glad you had a chance to check it out.
Show.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we had a lot of time, and it was hard to rank those, but I've got to go with number one on this one. And did you guys agree with my choice for number one being 1996, the 1995 season? Steelers 20, Colts 16. I think you almost have to.
That's a personal thing, though. Like that was the first year that when I was alive, that they advanced to the Super Bowl. I mean, I'd never seen the
Steelers win an AFC Championship game until then in my life, and I was a senior in high school, so that was really perfect.
It was the first one as an adult for me. The last time I was in second or third grade when they had advanced to the Super Bowl. So it was a huge deal for me. And it was such a big deal that they threw champagne on my eyes and like over my head. And it felt so good. And that was an amazing game. If you get a chance to go back and watch it, Quentin Correa dropped a Neil O'Donnell interception where he would have probably went the whole way. And the way that game was set up, the way they came back in that game, you can't ask for something better. And the way it ended was absolutely crazy. There's actually some YouTube of them doing it almost like the Zapruder tape, but it was just a fantastic, beautiful game to see Bill Cowher lift that AFC Championship trophy in the air and me crying, not because my eyes were burning with champagne, just the fact that I called my dad up. It was the first AFC Championship game I didn't watch with my dad. I called him up and I said, I can't believe they're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. In terms of AFC Championships that I've been alive for, that was the first one, so I'd probably have that ranked first. I think 2009 season beating the Ravens would be 2. I guess the Broncos are third because they won the Super Bowl, but that was a dud of a game. The divisional round was
I never felt like they were not going to win that game.
But
it was just like, nope, they're winning. I wasn't even worried about it.
It was not a ranking of the best games. It was a ranking of the best scenarios and situations and what it meant to the franchise. That's kind of why the one leading up to Super Bowl 9 is so high. And I'll tell you what, one of the high ones, I think number 4 was Steelers 34, Oilers 5. Not a good game, but a dominant game by the Steelers that just personified who they were back then. That's why the rankings, I mean, it's all subjective, but it's based on what it meant to the franchise. And I think when you have that game, it meant so much. Even though they lost that Super Bowl, it just meant so much that they got back in 1995.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff, Dave. Trivia time.
Yes. Hopefully this will be quick. Do you guys know who led the Steelers in receptions this year? Not receiving yards, but receptions.
I'm going to say George Pickens.
I'm actually going to... Was it Najee?
It was Pat Freiermuth.
Oh.
With 65 receptions. Regular season, of course.
He did beat George, yeah.
Yeah. So a tight end, he didn't have the most yards. Pickens had the most yards, but he had the most receptions. Who and when was the last time the Steelers had a tight end with the most receptions in a season? Before this past season of 2024.
I'm going to guess Eric Green. But that probably wasn't it either, because that was like the years of Yancey Thigpen, I think. And so that he probably didn't.
Yeah. I'm going to piggyback off Jeff, and I'm going to say Eric Green. Let's say 1990 or 91.
Here's the thing with Eric Green. He actually led the Steelers in receiving yards in back-to-back seasons. But there was someone since Eric Green that did lead the Steelers in receptions in a season. And that was with 71, Heath Miller in 2012. Now Green did also lead it in receptions one of those 2 years back then as well. But the most recent one, because that was before Antonio Brown really broke out in 2012, because Brown had 66, Wallace had 64. So because they were a little bit more split, then Heath Miller did it. Here's the interesting one. Who was the last non-wide receiver or tight end to lead the Steelers in receptions?
I'm going to go out on a limb and just say Le'Veon Bell.
That's a good guess. But he played with Antonio Brown. I don't think he ever outpaced Antonio Brown.
That's true.
I don't know. Like all these players I'm thinking of that used to catch the ball a lot of the backfield or would not have outpaced receivers. I have no idea.
It's got to be a running back though, right?
Yeah.
What if I gave you the year?
Give me the year. Yeah, we got it.
What if I gave you 1994?
Yeah.
Somebody out-caught Eric Green.
Yeah, I could do that. It's one of my favorite Steelers of all time. It's John L. Williams.
That's what I was going to say. I thought, Brian, you should know this one.
Yeah. John L. Williams, number 22, was phenomenal.
That was fullback John L. Williams with 51 receptions in 1994.
Jeez. That's crazy.
And that's a team that should have won the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
All right. Is that it?
Yeah.
All right, Brian, final thoughts. Go ahead.
All right, final thoughts. We're just getting started with the Steelers. There's, you know what? Last week was a lot tougher show because we were still hurting from the loss to the Ravens as fans. But I tell you what, look, I got to go back to last Sunday. Watching the Ravens lose the way they did was just, it felt so good. But I've also got to say that shame on you, Baltimore, for the way that you are treating Mark Andrews right now is, I think it's despicable. Burning his jersey, doing all that stuff, all the memes. It's absolutely despicable. I would hate to see the Steelers do that to somebody here. And, which, I mean, they have the potential to do so, but remember all the things that he did for you. So Steeler fans, remember, you know, you've been ousted by the Ravens. That sucked. Watching them win, which they didn't, would have, if you were watching them win, though, it would have felt like garbage going into this weekend. So now I feel like I could sit back and relax and watch the AFC Championship game and also the NFC Championship game, just geographically, and just for the fact that I said this to all of you when I went to the Steelers Washington game. If the Steelers don't make it, I'm all in on Washington. And this area is so fun right now. And living in Maryland, and there's 2 Maryland teams, living in Maryland and watching the Commanders go fly higher than the Ravens feels pretty good. But it also makes you think how one draft pick, one special guy could take a team that has been mired in mediocrity and move them forward. So when you think that it's all over for the Steelers, they can get that magic draft pick. I know they're not picking at number 2, but there's something that could be special, and you never know. So don't go away.
All right, Dave.
Yeah, there's these teams that overperform, and it's fun to watch the Commanders make it so much further. I mean, my goodness, they were even supposed to make the playoffs this season based on everything, and it's just been a fun ride For I know a number of Commanders fans, and I'm really happy for them. As I said in the past, I used to have season tickets to Washington. I did it specifically so I could get the Steelers game, and then I just kept them for several years up until the lockout. With a friend of mine, decided not to renew during the lockout time, just to watch football. But it's good to see that you take bad ownership and everything else and get them out of there and reset things, that you can have some success. And it's good to see that, some of those minority owners from Pittsburgh that went to Washington see that they can do what they do there. But also I find it interesting. I know the Steelers kind of got it handed to them in the playoffs, and they didn't play well enough to deserve to win. But my goodness, if they'd have got 3 takeaways against the Ravens, like what happened this past week, that would have made for a pretty interesting game as well. So it was just one of those things. But my biggest, we could talk about the football that's still there. Of course, I'm going to take in all the NFL football that I can for as long as I can, because I just love the game. So the fact there's only 3 games left has me kind of sad. But what has me more sad is that we have to wait a long time to see the Steelers play. Right now, we're just kind of in this holding pattern. Where all we have to go off is how this team finished the season, and it was very discouraging. But before we know it, there's going to be differences coming in. There'll be players released. We're less than 2 months away from the start of the new league year, and we'll get players signed and things of that nature. And it'll feel, and hopefully the stench of the end of the 2024 season can get washed off Steelers fans, that you can start to look forward and maybe see something that you like going forward to enjoy the off season more than what we are right now.
Yeah. I just want to say a quick shout out to Heath Miller. Yeah, Heath Miller got brought up in trivia. I don't think we realized how great it was having Heath Miller on the team when he was actually on the team. And think about the revolving door at tight end since he's left. And Pat Fryermuth's great, but he's not Heath Miller.
No,
he's not Heath Miller in a lot of ways, So shout out to Heath. He was the most quiet guy ever. I remember if he dropped the ball and flexed his arms, and screamed, you're like, whoa, Heath is showing some emotion. Let's get fired up. Shout out to the Wahoo, the number 1 first round draft pick in 2006. So, all right. Good stuff, guys. Dave, why don't you send us out like we always do?
Hey.
We'll see you next week on our Steelers preview. Everyone, take it easy.
Steel Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.